Nnamdi Kanu, in my own, take, is not a criminal. Nnamdi Kanu is not a criminal, I repeat. Nnamdi Kanu is exercising and expressing his rights and say, we want to be like this. We want this to be. I don't think I want to be part of this country. I believe that the Biafran nation should be. Let it be carved out. Can a referendum be done? And which he has been clamoring for. He has said, the IPOB has said, we are not using force. It is a referendum that we are asking for.
Hello everyone, welcome back once again. So my people, since Barrister Maxwell Okpara raised alarm about the health condition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, as well as how DSS refused to move him to hospital for proper treatment. So IPOB also came out and they raised alarm and also issued a serious warning to Nigeria government concerning Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's condition. So ever since then, a lot of people have been coming out, to talk about Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, especially because his case will be coming up very soon this month. Yes, my people. So in this particular video, this is kind of a deep discussion concerning Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, like his illegal detention, Biafra struggles, and as well as Simon Ekpa's role in this struggle. Yeah, in all this, you're going to hear everything they're going to say in this particular video, which I will urge you guys to watch this video to the end because it's worth watching, my people. But before then, please, if today is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it so that other people will get the opportunity to watch as well. Thanks so much for doing so. So let's go ahead and watch the video together, my people.
Welcome back. It's still VOP this morning. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has raised concerns over the deteriorating health of its detained leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, urging the Bola Tinubu administration to release him immediately. Kanu, who is held at the Department of Services DSS facility in Abuja, is reportedly in poor health. IPOB warned that continued detention could have severe consequences. In a statement on Monday, IPOB's Media and Publicity Secretary Emmanuel Powerful emphasized that Kanu's detention violates court ruling. The Nigerian Appeal Court had discharged and acquitted him of all charges, while the Supreme Court ruled that his abduction from Kenya was illegal. IPOB accused Nigerian authorities, the judiciary, and some Southeast politicians of plotting to eliminate Kanu. In a related document, Simon Ekpa responded to the Nigerian Army's call for Amnesty International and the International Criminal Court, ICC, to act against IPOB. Ekpa announced that a 35-page summary of human rights violation against Biafran people has been compiled, with over 500 pages set to be presented to the ICC. We have with us in the studio this morning to help x-ray this topic, we have Dr. Deji Omoshala, Doctor of Political Science. Good morning, Dr. Deji.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you in today's show. And right beside him is Barrister Asim Adams. He's also a legal practitioner and a social and political analyst. Good morning, Barrister Adams.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good to have you in today's show. We have IPOB back again on our radar on the table of discussion this morning. This is not the first time Nnamdi Kanu's health is deteriorating, and this is not the first time that Emma Powerful and Nnamdi Kanu's counsel have been talking about his, release. Barrister Adams, I would like to start with you as a legal
made for his release. He said no. That the judiciary made for his release. He said no. That the judiciary or the judicature, was going to, handle the issue. That whatever they say, that the government of the day will obey the ruling or judgment. Now, they went through gamut of trial, terrorism, etc. Even though we found out that those charges were defective, as it were, some were, removed or discharged, and new ones brought. Then, culminating all this, the Court of Appeal, said and gave a judgment that Nnamdi Kanu was illegally, extradited from Kenya to Nigeria and ordered for his immediate release. That was the Court of Appeal decision on that particular matter. So we were thinking that the moment the court ordered the release of, a suspect, that based on the fact that Section 336 of 5 says that every Nigerian that is accused of any offense, criminal for that matter, is presumed innocent until the contrary is proved. And in this particular case, the state could not prove the case against Nnamdi Kanu, and the Court of Appeal, in my own opinion, gave a very valid judgment and said, release this man. So I was thinking that for the sake of justice, equity and good conscience, that the young man would have been released almost immediately from, custody, at least to breathe the air of Nigerian freedom. But they kept him for another 14 days while trying to ferret for further evidences, to prosecute him and or appeal that particular judgment. Now, finally, they went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court found out, and they agreed that this young man was, not rightfully, extradited from Kenya to Nigeria. And one of the reasons, which for me is an aberration in constitutional democracy, of which Nigeria belong and we pledge, is that when you say that the rights of a Nigerian, could or can be suspended when there is issues of security, it means that the government will now have that rights allodial, albeit illegally, to detain a Nigerian man and suspend his fundamental human rights in the whole of Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution, that he does not have any reason to draw from those rights. For me, it's an aberration. And at the end of the day, they said the court, the matter should go back for retrial, at the lower court. Now, my problem is this. That is not a problem because it's a procedural thing. But for days and weeks also, the Supreme Court, even when the lawyers to Nnamdi Kanu made the application for the CTC of that particular Supreme Court judgment, I'm telling you that the registrar of court, covertly or overtly, intentionally or on purpose, I don't know why, they delayed, releasing the certified true copy of, the judgment or ruling of that particular court. For me, that is not the standard when you talk about justice. So now, on the plank and periscopium, what I'm trying to say is that look at what is going on right now. Even in murder cases, because what they are charging Nnamdi Kanu for is terrorism and whatever treason or whatever the case may be. The highest, offense in the land is murder. And when lawyers, go before the court and even in a murder case and say, look, we have on evidence this suspect is in your own cell or whatever the case may be. Use your doctors. Come and check if he has terminal illnesses, etc. as the case may be. On that ground alone, if it's found that this particular suspect is in this one has been set free forever, that means temporary, freedom for him to breathe on Nigeria of freedom, as case may be. So we look at this whole procedure. For me is not sweating.
All right.
And
I
don't really understand the peaceful side about it.
Barrister Adams, for that overview of everything. Really do appreciate that one.
Thank you.
Dr. Omoshola, I've asked this question before, and I'm going to ask you now. The things playing out in the Southeast, the activities of Simon Ekpa, the continued incarceration, don't you think, or some people are of the opinion, rather, let me put it this way, some people are of the opinion that the continued activities of Simon Ekpa is making it difficult for the Nigerian government to finalize its accusations, allegations on the man Nnamdi Kanu and set him free. Do you share this opinion? If not, what's your opinion?
Well, first, let's establish some basic facts. When we were introducing this topic, a lot was going on in my mind. And some of the things going on in my mind is, first, the man Nnamdi Kanu, he's been in this detention for years. So first, I was thinking that, could he be sick truly? Then I was beginning to imagine if you put a man in solitary confinement for that long, a man that, if you look at the personality of Nnamdi Kanu, an outspoken guy, a man that likes government. So you now look at it that those that are in prison that are not even regarded as the enemies of Nigeria, what kind of condition are they being subjected to? So when you establish that, you now look at it that if you are now being seen or presumed as an enemy of Nigeria, you can now imagine the kind of condition that you will be subjected to. For instance, if you look at ordinary NYSC, which I know most of us have passed through, our corpers, graduates, the condition they are subjected to in some of those camps makes you imagine what prison will be like. And like I said, those that are not enemies of the state and Nnamdi Kanu that is perceived by the Nigerian state as its enemy. Now to Simon Ekpa. What first comes to mind is this man Simon Ekpa, right? They are trying to fight for the restoration of Biafra. And the first thing that should come to mind is it's either the ideology of Biafra is so strong that it has refused to die, or the Nigerian state has acted so unjustly that the soul of Biafra keeps rising. Because if you look at it, when this Biafra occurred, looking at Simon Ekpa, you may want to ask yourself that, how old was Simon Ekpa when this Biafra war, when it occurred? Between 1967 to 1970, how old was Simon Ekpa? Even if you look at Nnamdi Kanu, you want to ask yourself that, how old is this man when this thing occurred? So for this issue to have come out strong till this present day, it means that something is fundamentally wrong as a country, that perhaps should we begin to investigate whether the injustice of Nigerian government has failed to bury the ideology of Biafra. Because if you look at the country, it is a marriage, and anything that pertains to ideology doesn't die quick. In fact, if it remains just one person, the thing will naturally resurrect again. Because Biafra has moved away from being a wish. It has moved away from, first it was an expression, then it becomes a wish. You can go to the realm of strong wish before it becomes an ideology. And for something to become an ideology, that means that it has been embraced over time. So the thing is, the attitude of Simon Ekpa in this case, I believe that you cannot sell when there's no market, right? You cannot sell when there's no market. So if Simon Ekpa is thriving, the Nigerian state, first of all, needs to look at it that first, do we want the Igbo community amongst us? Are they the kind of people that we want in the committee of states that forms Nigeria? If yes, you cannot be in a marriage and there will be a kind of like non-fair play. For you to be part of a match, the first thing is you want to look at it, oh, I will be able to get a fair deal in this match, that if I score a goal, it will be counted as offside, right? So the thing is, you need to look at it first. When you now look at it, that means that by addressing some of the core issues that have made Biafra an ideology, you are naturally demarketing Simon Ekpa. But when your actions, when your attitude speaks to, for instance, how old was Simon Ekpa when this Biafra something happened? And now, let us look at it that Simon
Ekpa
Ekpa,
born at that time.
yes, now Simon Ekpa is growing old. Let us look at the kids of nowadays, those in primary school, secondary school, and we look at them now. What is happening? What are we building in them? Are we building this particular perspective that, oh, there is really an injustice? Because in a Nigerian country whereby bandits are being bribed, bandits are being given, treatment that the ordinary legitimate citizen are not being given. Okay. In a country whereby people, terrorists, are being pardoned, you now ask yourself
Sorry, please. Now that you mentioned that, let me just draw a comparison now between Nnamdi Kanu's issue and that of Sunday Igboho. Help me understand. a possible difference that would make one, one is let off the hook and the other still in detention?
Well, the thing is,
Because it's
if I look at the issue of Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho,
in comparison,
they have, to my mind, more similarities than differences. In the sense that, let us look at the major thing that Sunday Igboho is asking for. Sunday Igboho is asking for a Yoruba nation, which is a secession of the people of Yoruba origin and culture from the corporate existence of Nigeria. What is Nnamdi Kanu asking for? Nnamdi Kanu is asking for restoration of Biafra, which is an extraction of the Igbo corporate existence from Nigeria as it is presently constituted. That is a similarity, right? Now, if you look at it from that perspective, which is the kind of like the biggest crime. If you accuse, for instance, if you accuse you, let us just, see it as a sane issue. Let us just, see it as a sane country, right? Firearms has been displayed against Sunday Igboho. So that's why arms has been displayed against Sunday Igboho. So that's why I said that there are more similarities than differences. So you now imagine that, and that is one of the things I felt that the president should have tried to address, especially because of the kind of support that the Igbo clan has tried to show during this.
So why would one be let off the hook and the other is still in detention? Was it as a result of a clamor by fellow kinsmen or lack of that?
Well, the thing is, I think it is largely based on interest. I think it is based on the interest
right now.
No, the interest of the Nigerian government itself. I think, for instance, if I see you as a greater threat than her, then I may want to consider that, okay, should I release her and still leave you or still watch you? Then another thing is, sorry, this is very important. If you look at, you can't erase the kind of like advocacy that is being brought forward by the key leaders in the Southeast. For instance, when the election was being held, right? Election is a kind of like a give and take exercise, a quid pro quo kind of thing. So what was the negotiation of leaders of the Southeast? What was the commitment that they were deriving from the candidate of the APC and PDP at that time? So if not much advocacy is being done for him, for instance, the Sunday Igboho issue, you see Yoruba traditional rulers, monarchs, even politicians, professors that are kind of like advocating for him that, oh, the injustice that was meted out, the kind of like anthrocentricism, nepotism that was meted out during the Buhari administration was what let this guy that naturally, if you are not a bastard, if you see your people being killed and you see something that you can do to save your people, there's no way you can just fold your arms and see your ancestral land being taken. So
one had
you won't compare the kind of like advocacy that helped Sunday Igboho. You won't compare it to that of Nnamdi Kanu. And I must say something. That Sunday Igboho appears to be a little bit, he knows how to play a little bit of hide and seek than Nnamdi Kanu. That is one thing I discovered.
Okay.
Yes. Now, Sunday Igboho, he knows that some of these Yoruba leaders are complicit in some of the things that are happening. But when he goes to their palace, he will still prostrate. He did not detach himself from the leadership culture, one. Then the leadership class. He didn't detach himself from them. He will say, oh, Baba mi Ladoja, Baba mi Oba Kinikon, which means that my father Ladoja, my father the king of something. So he didn't detach himself from that existing political class. Okay. But if you look at that of Nnamdi Kanu, he sometimes detach himself from the existing political. For instance, one of the things you can do to get the wrath of Nigerian politicians is if you begin to talk about politics and act politically in such a way that it doesn't favor them. For instance, if you are saying there will be no election, you begin to kind of like go into their battle because to them, election is an oxygen in nostrils. Power is something that they don't joke with. But on the part of Sunday Igboho, he didn't detach himself from that existing political class, and that is what led some of them to kind of like advocate for him, and that's what I think Nnamdi Kanu is somehow like.
Barrister Adams.
1 minute. Barrister Adams, let me come to you on this. In your intro, you said something about, you always made reference to extradition of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya. As a legal practitioner, I want you to make sense of it to Nigerians. What is the difference between extradition and rendition? Because from my layman's knowledge, I think there are two different things.
Thank you. Now, extradition is one, when you have a synergy between two countries, first of all, like Kenya and Nigeria should have, a pact or treaty that if a criminal from Kenya enters Nigeria and we, the Kenya people, need that particular criminal and face trial in Kenya, that we will contact your government. You understand the point now? Following your local laws here, perfect it, and take that particular person, down to Kenya for us. Extraordinary rendition is this. You didn't follow those protocols. Okay. You didn't, contact the AG of the Federation of Kenya. You did not even contact maybe the DSS of that particular country. Then you now entered that Kenya with mercenaries to now begin to track that criminal, Nigerian criminal as we call him. Then you got him somewhere and abducted him, just like kidnapping.
Okay.
That was why you see in the Umaru Diko affair, what happened was this. The British government, if they had a pact with Nigeria or treaty with Nigeria for repatriation of criminals, etc., extraditing criminals between both countries, what would have happened is that Umaru Diko wouldn't have been put in a crate and brought to Nigeria. What would have happened is that the British government would have, worked in synergy with Nigeria, track Umaru Diko with their police, whatever, and bring him down to Nigeria here.
So that's what I wanted us to establish, so that people out there will understand that Nnamdi Kanu was not extradited, that he was rendition, which is an illegality. Which is an illegality. And the courts in Nigeria have said
so, because they didn't follow that particular procedure.
That said, I also like to, as a lawyer, I want you to tell Nigerians, is it proper for Nnamdi Kanu to be in the custody of the DSS, or should he be remanded in a correctional facility?
Good. That's a very wonderful question. Now, do you know that the Nigerian state for which we belong, there's what we call the Constitution of Nigeria. Lawyers refer to the Constitution as the font et origo, that is the source and origin of all our happenings and laws that we have today.
The ground norm.
The ground norm. Now, the moment a suspect is brought before the court make pronouncement and say, let this man be in custody. The court has to make that pronouncement, say, prison custody, or let him remain at the police custody. But it's very rare in situations where I've seen in practice, where courts will say the man or the suspect be remanded in the custody of his accusers. It's very rare. I've never seen that for a very wide period of time. But it does happen. I'm not saying it does not happen. But the normal thing, is that Nnamdi Kanu, in my own and legal take, would have been in the correctional center. And we have been wondering, and we hope that this hazard will be cured by the lower court that is about to begin the trial. Because Justice Binta Yanku, that was trying this particular matter, the lawyers of Nnamdi Kanu raised this particular point, that you cannot submit and surrender the suspect to his accusers. Rather, the suspect, the court, having made this pronouncement, a proclamation, that the proper place that he should be kept in custody and cared for is the correctional center. For instance, in the correctional center, he has access to his family, he has access to his lawyers, he has access to the kind of food he wants to eat, he has access to interact with other prisoners people in the custody, whatever the case may be. He also has access to good medical care that is, verifiable.
So why is it still kept at DSS?
That is what I wanted.
That is the problem.
Barrister Asif,
That is the
first you have
problem.
established that it was extraordinary rendition to
That's
Nigeria,
right.
which is an illegality.
Yes.
Now, the DSS is also keeping him against the orders of the court.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. That is what we are saying. If you listen to my
Which is another illegality.
illegality,
On top of an
if you
illegality.
listen to my opening statement, I said that I believe and I hope that this court, the lower court, that the matter has been referred for, trial, if they begin that particular trial, that particular judge will make an order immediately that we call consequential order and say, look, before I will start this matter, please, this man should be taken to custody in the correctional center for him to have proper care. At the DSS, a gulag that he is, he does not have access to his lawyers. Under international conventions of people's detained, people's rights, both the United Nations and African Charter, of which Nigeria is a treaty and signatory to that particular treaty, that all prisoners, all people that are remanded, what needs to be done is that they should be treated with care. They should be treated as if they are human beings. The only thing denied them is freedom of movement, as the case may be. So that detention at the gulag of the DSS is an illegal one for me. In my own take.
So, Barrister Asim, one last thing before we move on. Okay. Do you see Nnamdi Kanu as a criminal or as a political prisoner?
Nnamdi Kanu, in my own, take, is not a criminal. Nnamdi Kanu is not a criminal, I repeat. Nnamdi Kanu is exercising and expressing his rights. Our constitution, even though I know that under section 2 sub 3 says that Nigeria should become an indissoluble and indissoluble entity, for me, I don't understand what that means. You can't force people to come together. But since it is there and it has not been tinkered with or maybe amended, as case may be, it becomes the law. But it does not preclude me from having my expression. For instance, section 39, 40, etc. as case may be, I have the right to freedom of expression. Under section 35 and 6, liberty, etc. as case may be. Then to add, like I normally say, Maggi in the soup, you now have, the conventions, treaties that Nigeria entered into by virtue of our constitution. They signed those treaties on human and people's rights to assert and say, we want to be like this. We want this to be. I don't think I want to be part of this country. I believe that the Biafran nation should be. Let it be carved out. Can a referendum be done? And which he has been clamoring for. He has said, IPOB has said, we are not using force. It is a referendum that we are asking for. And who are those who conduct the referendum? They said the referendum is not in our constitution. But I find an aberration and sickening that we don't have a referendum, but under section 68, damn the constitution of Nigeria, you have a referendum to recall a senator, you have a referendum to recall a House of Reps member, you have a referendum to recall a House of Assembly member of your state if they are not performing well. Why is there no clause or section that calls for referendum that Nigerians can sit down peacefully, civilly, and ask the National Assembly to say, do a referendum so that we can decide the Yoruba nation, the Igbohos of this world can go their way peacefully, the Biafrans of this world can go their way peacefully, the Edo people of this world can go their own way peacefully. But I have found out, treading back to what and the issues you raised, why there was differences in release here and there was no release here, it is because of our constitution, which was intentionally mad and cajoled, with landmines and lacunae that people can come in and look at. For instance, let me tell you section 10 of the Nigerian constitution, why we're having this problem and why we're saying that Nigeria is not a nation of itself. It's not a nation, an entity. It's a country, like I will describe, as a geographical expression, but not a nation state. You understand? We don't have those things. Section 10. Constitution says that Nigeria shall be a secular state, that no state shall prefer or prefer religion. But is that true? It is not true. If it is true, why do we have Sharia? Why is it that Kano House of Assembly can make laws for the governance of the state through Sharia government? Why do we have Sharia courts that we do what? Do what now? Are they not going to determine issues of offenses, criminal etc. in the Sharia courts of law and justice? And you say that is a country of one nation? No. Why do we have in the northern part the Criminal Procedure Code, and in the southern part we have Criminal Procedure Act? And let me tell you, Nigerians today, that the reason why a man like Wadume, a terrorist, a kidnapper, and a man that was adjudged by court to be a killer, even killing policemen on uniform, army men on uniform, was taken to court, sentenced, and within 2 days he's out of whatever I say, he has served his sentence. Today is a chief in his place because the criminal procedure code of the northern part allows that kind of a thing. But in the southern part, where the Criminal Procedure Act, if Wadume were to come from here, what is the difference between himself and that kidnapper Evans that is still in detention? It's in the prison custody today. What is the difference? Is it not what they did? Even as it is, Evans is not even murder or did one or two things. The reason why now Kanu might not get, look at all these things we're talking about, these niceties we're trying to paint situations here. The reason why he might not, be out of prison for a very long time is because of this dichotomy of CPC and CPA. And they are using that to hold down, Nnamdi Kanu in detention. And it's so sad for me.
Okay.
I do not want to go further than that. Let me not eat the whole time.
All right, Dr. Deji, we also saw the Major General Onyema Nwachukwu writing to ICC and Amnesty International about the happenings of IPOB. And, he was of the opinion that the whole thing that the IPOB team has been committing in the Southeast should be looked into by the international body. Do you think that this is going to, work in any way against IPOB, given the fact that, from what Barrister Asim said, Nigeria itself has in so many ways also, default according to the International Court of Conduct?
Well, first, if I can add to what the barrister said, whereby the penal code and the criminal code, right? Try to see how some people in the north are being persecuted while against people in the south. For me, if I take the south as an entity itself, then I would look at it that even in the south, it depends on where you come from. So I think it's beyond north-south. Because even if you look at it in the south itself, just kind of like exclude the north, just look at it only in the south, you will see that differences. I would like to the criminal code that even in the south itself, let us imagine that Nigeria is only made of the southern part of Nigeria, which is the south-south, the southeast, and the southwest, and the southwest. That the kind of discrimination is even apparent, because if you look at Sunday Igboho, is from the south, and Nnamdi Kanu is from the south. Their case has been treated differently. This man that established Oduduwa University, right, that was alleged to have been involved in ritualism and killing, right? Look at the way his case was being treated. The Nigerian government kind of handled it, and somebody like, I'm trying to remember this man. Now, if you look at the likes of Clifford Oji, some of them are that they were kind of like in detention for so long. So I think it's beyond a north-south thing, because even in the south itself, that particular injustice it kind of exists, whereby if you are from a particular tribe, the way you will be treated will be kind of like quite different. And for me as a political scientist, you cannot rule out the political hand in all this. And maybe if the Southeast are being fairly treated in the political arena, that they are being given that fair chance to also occupy the #1 seat of the country, just maybe we could have more fairness. Because how do you justify it to me that the South, the Niger Delta, right, comprising of the oil producing states, which are mainly in the South, that the South geopolitical zone, we have 6 states, right? And the southeast, we have 5 states, whereas Bayelsa is a very small state. Are you saying that you cannot look at Enugu, Anambra, Imo, and all these states and carve out a state out of it to make sure that there's that balance, that it is 666, across board? So if you look at the inadequate political representation at the topmost level of the country, we can also adduce some of these injustices to it. Now, the international community that you raised about, one thing that I have come to see over time is, let's be sincere with ourselves. If we want to be realistic, you see, the corporate existence of Nigeria as it is now, the Nigerian government, the political cabal, the ruling elite, they really don't respect anything within Nigeria. Let's be realistic with ourselves, right? But one of the things they respect is that comes from beyond Nigeria, especially from the West. So when clamor begins to come from there, Nigerian government begins to kind of like sit tight, begins to kind of like adjust. And that is why I believe that when you are clamoring for something like Biafra, right, it has to be more of an intellectual clamor than, if I can use the word, noise making, in the sense that you are coming to people to come and ask for something, and 101% that these people, they will not give you. So if you have lots of security guards, and I can't even get to your doorstep, and I'm clamoring, what is the essence of that clamor when I know that I cannot get what I want? So I believe that this Biafra agitation, let me tell you, the simple truth is, clamor from now till tomorrow. The Nigerian state will only harass you, will only intimidate you, will only kind of like humiliate you. But when your fight, when it is being fought intelligently, and your voice began to be heard right from abroad, for instance, what gave the Niger Delta a voice? When Isaac Adakaboro, when he went violent and he declared an independent state from Nigeria, the Nigerian state imprisoned him. During Biafra, they brought him out to fight on the part of Nigerian state. And after that, because they couldn't return him to prison, he died under mysterious, unexplainable circumstances. But look at when Ken Saro-Wiwa came, the reason why the world began to know and the injustice now became like of global knowledge was because he took that fight from Nigeria, he took it to the international scene, he took it to all this global civil society, all this international organization, and he expounded it. And the injustice of the injustice being perpetrated on the people of the Niger Delta was now being brought, and when it was made known internationally, it became obvious. So I would kind of like advocate a bit for a change of strategy, whereby the advocacy for Biafra, take it to the international scene. Let it be more of that international advocacy, whereby the injustice being perpetrated to the people of the Southeast, which I believe that there's an injustice. And if I'm to limit myself to being a political scientist, I'll just tell you that why with the Southeast, I don't see any reason now why the Southeast we have 5 states. That is one of the injustices. So begin to take it to the international front, where you can get a bit of more result, because on the local front, they will only intimidate you, they will only suppress you, and at the end of the day, the Nigerian state doesn't even respect court order.
Thank you.
Unfortunately.
Barrister, let me come to you. Just Dr. Deji talked about in the international community how we can play around the international community, and I want to ask you this question in response to Nigerian Army's call, to the ICC and Amnesty International to investigate or whatever about Simon Ekpa, activities of IPOB in the Southeast. In response to that, Simon Ekpa also said that he has compiled that 5-page summary, of the inhumanity of the Nigerian army against the people of the Southeast, unarmed civilians and in the Southeast. Yes. Considering the fact that Simon Ekpa is a non-state actor as we know it now, and the treaty that established the ICC, he is not a state party. He is not a state signatory to it. Is there a possibility that the ICC will listen to Simon Ekpa and act on his submission to the ICC, if he ever does that?
I don't think, I'm not a political scientist or a student of international law, but what I'm trying to say today is conjectural. That is, it's like a guesswork. Now, but from articles I've read, I observed that the Simon Ekpa or whoever, or even Nnamdi Kanu or whatever the case may be, may not be held by the United Nations, whatever the case may be, or even the ICC, because they deal with nations, if I'm correct. Now, it's only a nation that can do that. Now, who are those to propagate, or maybe let the world know about the cry of Biafra? Like, if you know, I am from the south part of Nigeria, and Ken Saro-Wiwa, which you mentioned rightly just now, did not on its own go out to international bodies just like that. It was some countries that had sympathy with Niger Delta, like the Canadian government that propagated, the idea of, the oil and whatever in the Ogoni land. And when Canada and some other countries came, they propagated and sensitized, the rest of the world to the suffering and the subjugation of the Niger Delta people. And that was how the United Nations now listened to them, because those particular bills were sponsored by nations that were in sympathy, with that. Now, under International Convention on Code, now, you know why it's going to be very difficult for nations to begin to say they support openly, the struggle in the Biafra land, as the case may be. The moment you do that, the Nigerian nation or government will see you as an enemy state that is trying to interfere in its internal affairs. And if you know what is the codes in the United Nations, the conventions they have, they talk about sovereignty and suzerainty. You understand? Sovereignty and suzerainty. So what they agree is, among the Magna Carta things that they agree by all nations who are signatory to the UN body, that you cannot interfere. You shall not. It's a shall. That is, you must not interfere in the internal affairs of a nation state to protect their sovereignty and their sovereignty, as the case may be. So it will be difficult for this South America now to begin to come and directly, support the people of Biafra or any other secessionist group in Nigeria here. Because they will see
the concept of responsibility to protect, in the case of genocide.
Yes, that is it. You have to prove it.
Against humanity is
and you have to prove it. And I'm very happy that a political scientist is here. How do you prove it? Do you know how you're going to prove it? If you go there without having a voice and a collection of nations who are going to echo and propagate that your idea, they might not listen to you. The politics in the international arena, we all know, even though I am not a player, but we know the politics that is going on there.
All right, then.
So if he has to,
you have something
yes,
to...
Yes, what I want to say is, you see, this issue of Ken Saro-Wiwa was what my doctoral thesis was on, right? So if the Southeast people, this is not interstate something that you want America to come and be advocating for. No. But there are global people society. Like I was trying to Google it, but I couldn't quickly lay my hands on it. There was one particular global civil society that was prominent at that time that Ken Saro-Wiwa ran to.
In Greenhouse also.
No, not Greenhouse. International something, people's rights, something like that. There was one international civil society that Ken Saro-Wiwa ran to and presented his case. There were Ken Saro-Wiwa used money to make international publications. For instance, if people of the Southeast are making publication in, for instance, New York Times, do you know the impact of New York Times? If you make a publication in New York Times, it gets to where it is supposed to get to. And that global civil societies, when they saw the level of rights, which he mentioned that responsibility to protect, it is a right under the social contract theory. When you submitted some of your rights to another right, that is one. Two, if you take the landmass of Bayelsa State, if you take the landmass of other states in the country, and you take it as a matter of right to advocate against the injustices in the Southwest, if you take the case of Sunday Igboho, and you take the case of Nnamdi Kanu, and you make a comparative analysis of it and present it before some of these rights civil societies, you will make a significant progress if your argument resonates with them. If it is very clear. For instance, Ken Saro-Wiwa was able to prove the substandard modus operandi of Shell in US, UK, the Netherlands, and their operations in the Niger Delta, particularly Ogoniland. It was evidence. It was pictorial. You know, it was quite evidence. So this international civil society, I'm not talking of that. Maybe you think that, okay, you want Biafra and America will support you. No, the truth is that as a student of history, as a social scientist and political scientist, the corporate existence of Nigeria now, as it is, if you roll back to imperialism, slave trade, colonialism, and now bring it down to neocolonialism, you will see that the corporate existence of Nigeria now is what the West, the Western countries, the United States, the United Kingdom, and their allies, it is what they like. The corporate existence, if it splits, there are some things that Nigeria is tolerating in terms of treaties, in terms of, you know, all these agreements that Biafra as a country will not tolerate. That Yoruba nation may tolerate it, but Biafra may tolerate it. So they will not.
The difference, I'm sorry, with you.
So it is by civil society advocacy.
What I said is not that urgent and true.
The country,
but the difference, in a second, yes, the difference between the Biafra struggle and the Niger Delta struggle is one. The Niger Delta struggle was on economic, whatever. So the international community bought into it. Environmental Rights Watch, you understand the point? And they came into it because believing that they were talking about environmental degradation and remediation of an environment, not succession.
Okay.
You understand? So anybody can, you know, come in and intervene. You know, Holland, ETC will come in and intervene immediately now because it has to do with the environment. But when it talks about succession, that is what you say, you want to break away from a particular, you know, part of the country. That for them, they see it as war declared on them. The government do not see it. Even Abacha, you see the way it dealt with Saro-Wiwa, even when those people were intervening. So talk less, even they said they wanted to secede. Ogoni never said they wanted to leave Nigeria. They only said our environment should be remediated and let them have peace as case may be. But
right, so
they are two different.
We're absolutely.
So my people, that is it. I hope you guys had everything they said here, which I would love you guys to leave your thoughts in the comment section about everything they said in this particular video. Just as I said before, please, if today is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it as well. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next update. Goodbye for now.
Welcome to Shamra Seniors TV. Call off into